open grave. Here I am, unable to move, heaven's sake. What is left? What is there to lose? People break. Do we have to do this over again? Big mistake. If we keep on doing this is the end. Dig the weeds and pave the way over the dead once again. Fill the needs without ever stopping till the end. What succeeds is what we put the time and effort into. No good deeds unless the sacrifice is worth tending to. Counting down, formaldehyde and caskets now preserve the dead underground, while all of those above are filled with regret. Not a sound. There'll be no talking at this somber event. See you round. Hope we like how all our time here was spent. Welcome back to my challenging channel where I present topics to you in a multitude of formats, sometimes including song and dance, although I haven't really danced a whole lot for you guys, have I? So today is I believe July the 8th. Yep, it's July the 8th. Thankfully I have this amazing smart timepiece that helps me to conjure the date from the Gregorian calendar, or whatever it's called by the masses. Recently I posted a topic about whether it is beneficial to continue the old practices of burial and funerals without considering the land loss, the chemicals that we're putting into the bodies to preserve the bodies, the deforestation that's necessary for all of the hardware that's involved to protect this preserved body, the cementing of the earth underground to, I guess, to ensure against the pathogens and or the damage that may occur if we don't put the capstones on top of these caskets. And of course, not to mention the land that is now just a graveyard where people can go and celebrate the lives of the past, but they can't build a whole lot of the future on those dreams. So I presented that topic, and I also, on that very same day that this idea was discussed with somebody in my circles, I wrote this song. And the song is called Currently Open Grave. It's nicknamed Open G. I don't really even know tunings or music theory or anything like that. So I literally can't tell you what this chord is or what this chord is. not without looking it up, but I can tell you that it sounds pretty good. So once again, open grave, here I am, unable to move. I really want to sing it, but I don't know the words to the song yet, and it gets kind of away from me because I evaluate how I'm being evaluated as I present these songs. And some people really don't like how I sound, and that's fine. It doesn't matter if you like how I sound. I've presented this in a different format. I can present it in just plain text so that you can read the concepts and discuss these topics without ever hearing me. The biggest concern I have is that people don't really hear one another. And so how about if I, instead of singing it, just read this poem to you? Open grave, here I am, unable to move. Heaven's sake, what is left? What is there to lose? People break. Do we have to do this over again? Big mistake. If we keep on doing, this is the end. That first chorus, I guess you would call it, I want to repeat it in between each of the three choruses, or each of the next two choruses, so that that first chorus is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then there's two unique choruses that occur in between that repeating portion. And the second chorus, or refrain, I really don't know what they're called, it's directly from the conversation that I had with the person that inspired this this concept, this thought process. So, dig the weeds, like you're digging out weeds. Dig the weeds and pave the way over the dead once again. Fill the needs without ever stopping till the bitter end. What succeeds is what we put the time and effort into. No good deeds unless the sacrifice is worth tending to. For many of us, as we recognize the generational divides and the practices that used to be versus the practices that are going to be, we're noticing that we're not tending to our current situation. Sometimes we're too far in the past, sometimes we're too far in the future, but we're hardly ever tending to the current situation. And that's basically what that verse, I guess is what it's called, it alludes to. Dig the weeds, fill the needs, what succeeds, no good deeds. All of these refrains or choruses or whatever they're called, they start out with rhymes like that. And then each of the two lines of the four are rhymed to each other at the end. So on that note, let's do the third verse that I came up with from this conversation that we had. Counting down, formaldehyde and caskets now preserve the dead underground, while all of those above are filled with regret, not a sound. There'll be no talking at this somber event. See you around. Hope we like how all our time here was spent. I kind of played it, and so some of you might not like that, and for that reason, and just to further the insecurities that I'm sure I'm causing, I'm going to read it one more time. Counting down, formaldehyde and caskets now preserve the dead underground, while all of those above are filled with regret. Not a sound. There will be no talking at this somber event. See you round. Hope we like how all our time here was spent. I like how my time here has been spent. There are a lot of things that I've done without gratitude in my past, and there are a lot of things that I do now with an abundance of gratitude. And for that reason, I'm continually giving thanks by trying to resonate in energy back and forth. And I'm receiving so much positive energy in the conversations that I'm able to have. The conversations that I have been unable to have, that I've been shorted, are the conversations that make me even stronger. Because I know that when someone is too insecure to discuss a topic with me, it's possible that it's because on the opposing side, the discussion is rooted in lies. People who will only lie cannot talk with one another for very long or in the presence of other people, because the only thing that can ever come out is a lie. And if you have 2 or 3 people who are witnessing the situation, it becomes inconvenient to try to lie to 4 or 5 people. You know, the combined amount of people that we're talking with in a meeting, we only know so many things about one another as truths superficially. But what about when it comes to asking the daunting questions of how can we change going forward if we are presented with that opportunity? And for me, the opportunity that's been shorted for me is to talk with my very own fathers, for an example. Can't talk with my fathers about these topics because oftentimes our mothers are at the helm of safeguarding our fathers in their protective comfort zone bubble, usually in an armchair, where basically it's snacks and movies until the next set of entertaining opportunities comes up. Now, in between all of that opportunity for entertainment, there's also tending to things in the future and in the past, such as the grave sites of our parents. As we're tending to the grave sites of our parents and grandparents, we might notice that fewer and fewer of the children are doing that. It's all left to the groundskeepers. We're not even hardly raising one another in terms of parental considerations and what the children are supposed to be doing in terms of resonating. Hey, this is what I learned in school today. This is what you can learn. You know, oftentimes I've heard conversations of parents where the kids are saying, this world, we have too many plastic things coming to the table. And the parents say, well, it's not a big deal. We recycle, you know. There's no conversation that goes all the way full circle to the point where it's like, let's see how that recycling opportunity is working out. Let's see how these amassed practices are playing out for us. Let's see if all that land on the horizon is still free of all of that one-time use array of utensils. And so for that reason, this channel is about wellness and conservation, primarily centered around wildlife and also showcasing all of the things that I've noticed in terms of the decline in wildlife, the decline in general wildlife in the actual wild spaces, while we continue to think that everything's just as normal as can be, especially in residential areas like the area where I live in, where people have to water the lawns. And so in keeping the green lawns, you also have some of the insects left, which means that you have some of the birds still coming to your area, which means that you also have some of the raptors that feed on those birds, which means also that you have some of the mammals that are feeding on the things that are in our ecosystems. But if you go out into the wild and you just spend a while in there, in the wild, you start to notice that we're counting down formaldehyde and caskets now preserve the dead underground, while all of those above are filled with regret. This isn't a personal attack. This isn't a denouncing of the current values. This is simply an observation of the things that are occurring and the things that I believe are important to be talking about right now. And for that reason, I'm doing everything I can possibly do with the mediocre talents that I have to try and share this energy. And as I share the energy and receive conversations that are true from people who are able to help me to boost that confidence so that I can have more than just a mediocre skill set, I become a little bit more humbled. I continue to be humbled by all of these opportunities to speak with one another. And in my humble attempt to show you something and tell you something, I presented this additional show and tell segment right here where I'm showing probably what I believe is the only acoustic guitar that I haven't shown you here on this channel so far. And this is basically a transition. This is a transition between when I hit my electric guitars and start showing those off, although I don't know that I'll show them off in the same manner. Right now, the things that I'm saying, I recognize they're not well received. I've had great friends who have traveled with me, spent weeks in the wild with me, and for whatever reason, these conversations they cause insecurities. They cause insecurities, I believe, because all of those above are filled with regret. Many people are filled with regret. And when you're filled with regret, it's hard to celebrate. We can hardly celebrate the life of one another when someone passes away and we're arguing about how many limousines we need to transport someone to go and watch this ritualistic thing where we stick an embalmed person. How much more disrespectful can we be in the eyes of the Creator? We think that we've been taught to do what's right, and we start to wonder when we recognize what's going on in the big picture. Did we do what was right? Did we spend that time with one another celebrating while we were alive so that we're not so filled with regret when someone ends up on the other side of the ground? Open grave. Here I am, unable to move. Heaven's sake. What is left? What is there to lose? People break. Do we have to do this over again? Big mistake. If we keep on doing this is the end. So I'm presenting this thought on a Yamaha Compass CPX-15, and I think this guitar is beautiful. It's a CPX-15S for the South. I've got a CPX-15E, which is the East, and it's basically got a kind of an Egyptian theme to it. They made a Compass series, hence the name Compass. So as you can see, some of the topics, I'm not presenting this in a well-refined way where it's like, this is rehearsed, I know exactly what I'm going to do, I'm selling something. I have nothing to sell. I've got nothing to hide. I've only got basically my capabilities to work with. And within those constraints, I wanted to show you something that maybe you haven't seen before. I wanted to describe it for you, but you're already going to have seen this in a video that is superimposed or overlaid on top of this song itself. And all the while, the main thing I wanted to do was say, hey, I'm glad that I had the conversation that I had with you. There are not a whole lot of people with whom we can actually have a conversation. So the fact that you're communicating with me and you recognize that I'm communicating with you and that this is going in a wider distribution than just this one directional manner is something that is already miraculous. We already are aware that there is communication going on. And the only thing we're not aware of is how safe is it? How safe is it to speak our mind? Well, it depends. You know, if we have a lot of vitriol, if we have a lot of vindication, if we have a lot of anger and hostility, that can spill out uncontrolled. And I'm not saying that we cannot have any of those emotions. What I'm saying is those responses and how we responsibly tend to those responses are our actions. And we know each other by our actions, by the seed, by the fruits of our labor. Some of us have no fruit to bear, no fruit to offer. That's only because we haven't been cultivating the gardens that we've been entrusted to. So some of us have been over gardening, over fertilizing, over pruning. Some of us have been a little bit obsessive without ever recognizing we're here to help resonate joy and positivity and accomplishment. We're only here for the moment. I was watching a study on geology recently, and they showed this study akin to a 1-year calendar. If the Earth and all of its history from the formation of the Earth until today were compressed, if that time frame, that deep time frame was compressed into 1 calendar year, the formation of the Earth started on January 1st, right? Well, here at the very end of December, in the last 5 days practically, is when basically we started to have the dinosaurs and certain things happen. But in the very last moment is when humanity has emerged as something that's even noteworthy on this planet. So in other words, we're that much of a speck of dust. And I believe it was Mark Twain who, I can't remember for sure, so don't quote me on that, but you can look up the facts of what I'm going to tell you, is that if you were to take the Eiffel Tower, and if you were to try to figure out what percentage, as far as the upward drive of the Eiffel Tower, of the tower represents what humanity is, the top layer of paint on the Eiffel Tower is about how relevant we are over the course of this whole entire time frame. So even though we have an anticipated life expectancy of about 75 years or so in this nation, and that's on a good day, even though we have something like that type of expectancy, we've got to think about it. That's literally nothing. And the only thing that we have all of this time for is to figure out, are we thankful for it or are we not thankful for it? And that's really about all there is to it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope that you're having a even better, strong beginning than the weekend. And I hope you're having a great time. Thank you so much for communicating with me. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.